Hello everybody, welcome back to American Textbook Reading. I'm Brian Stuart. Are you guys ready to learn about animals? Let's get started. In this lesson, Lesson 1, we're going to learn what animals need to grow. What animals need to grow. So you will discover animals need food, they need shelter, they need oxygen, and they need water. So all of these animals need these things in order to grow. And if you think about it, we're animals too, right? We also need these things in order to grow. Let's talk about these things in more detail. First of all, we saw that animals need shelter. Shelter, of course, is a place where an animal can be safe. This looks like a shelter, looks like a tree, right? But inside the tree is a narrow space where an animal can use it as its home. Maybe a wolf or a fox can live in there. I don't know about a bear. A bear is really big, so maybe this is a little small for a bear. But this could be a good shelter for an animal to live in. Animals need shelter because it rains, it gets cold. They need some type of home. So a shelter is like a home. And we all need a home, don't we? We all need some place to be safe, where an animal can be safe. Okay, let's take a look at another thing. Another thing is a nest. A nest is kind of like a shelter too. A nest is a place where birds live. So a nest, as you can see in the tree here, birds make their homes high up in trees, and it's a bird's shelter. So a bird will use this, a nest. This is also a bird's shelter. It is basically their home. It protects them, it keeps them safe from animals walking around on the ground, right? So mama bird can take care of her baby birds safely in a nest, and that's their shelter. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, another thing that all animals need to grow is oxygen. We need to breathe, right? And we breathe oxygen. Oxygen is a gas that is necessary for people and animals to live. We need oxygen to breathe. Oxygen has no color. We can't see it. It's all around us. In the room here, in the room where you are, there's oxygen in the air. You can't see it. You can feel it. If you go like this really quickly, you can feel the air, and in the air is oxygen that we need to breathe. Our bodies need oxygen. If we're diving, for example, underwater, how do we get oxygen? Well, we need to breathe through the equipment. We need to breathe, right? If we breathe, that means to take in oxygen. So even if we're underwater and we're scuba diving, right? We have equipment that gives us oxygen so we can breathe underwater. We're not fish, right? We don't have gills, but we can use equipment to go underwater and swim around. Looks like fun. If you have a chance, try that out. Try out scuba diving. Okay, next we have another verb, to hatch. Now, some animals hatch. To hatch means to come out of the egg. Like this crocodile or alligator here is coming outside of the egg. It's hatching. Not all animals hatch. Hatch means to come out of an egg. Did you come out of an egg? No, you didn't come out of an egg. Mammals are born without eggs. We're born live. We don't have eggs when we come out of our mother's bodies, right? We don't have eggs. But some animals, like reptiles, birds, and some fish, they will come out of eggs. They need to hatch. Okay, so to hatch. Another verb is to store. Some animals will store things. What will they store? Store means to keep something for future use. You've probably seen in the movies the squirrel, right? The squirrel running around, and the squirrel is running after nuts, right? N-U-T-S. So squirrels will store nuts, and squirrels are kind of, the little animals, the little furry animals with the big tail. They will go and they will take nuts, and they won't eat them right away. They'll put them in their shelter, in their home. They will store them for when it's cold and when the winter there's no food. So they keep something for future use. They keep it for later. Okay, so that's to store. Another verb is to protect. Some animals, of course, all animals need protection, right? Some animals have built-in protection. Built-in, they have it as part of their bodies. Built-in protection. Built-in protection. This shell is protecting the turtle. Tuck, 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 right? It's very hard, and the turtle will not be harmed because the shell protects the turtle. Protect, of course, means to cover and to make something safe. So if you look at this turtle, kind of an interesting character, he's very safe inside of his shell. He is protected. Okay, let's move on. Extinct. If an animal is extinct, it is no longer in existence. But think about that. If all the animals of the same type are gone, they all die, then they are extinct. What animals can you think of that have gone extinct? Some very famous animals. If you think of dinosaurs, D-I-N-O-S-A-U-R-S, dinosaurs. Dinosaurs, this is a dinosaur. There are no more dinosaurs in the world. They are all extinct. They are no longer in existence. They've all died. So we can say dinosaurs are extinct. Okay? Okay, let's take a look at our chart here. We have a chart, what animals need to live, and we see different pictures here. We see shelter. This is a very cute little guy, right? Inside the tree. He's just looking out of his hole. He's inside his home, right? Where there's oxygen, there's water, and there's food. Let's take a look at this guy who's in his home. He looks pretty cute. Let's take a look at him closely. Okay? Oh, here we've got another, maybe his friend, squirrel, coming into a tree, and this is where his home is. See, that is a good picture of a squirrel. Ah, and look at that. He has a nut. He's storing nuts inside of his home, inside of his shelter. So this is a very good video that shows us two things. One, it shows us the shelter where the squirrel lives, that's his home, and it also shows us how the squirrel stores food. You notice the squirrel went into his home to get a nut. That's where he keeps or stores his food. Okay, he's pretty cute, isn't he? And it looks like he's very hungry. He keeps eating that nut very well. But that's good. He is kind of turning it around. Okay, squirrel, have you had enough? Oh, then he runs away. Okay, goodbye, squirrel. Okay, let's move on. We'll come on over to oxygen. Now, of course, this is underwater. This picture shows underwater, but we can see the air rising up. Probably some scuba divers are underwater, and the air is going up from their tanks. Let's take a look. There's a scuba diver right there. We can see the air coming up from his tank when he's breathing out. So all these little bubbles here, all these little bubbles are the air or oxygen that he's breathing out, and it's going up into the water. And this is very interesting. Of course, all the air that this person needs is in the tank, and he has a hose coming around that goes to his mouth, like we saw in the other picture, and he's breathing from this tank. So scuba diving is a lot of fun, right? And you can stay underwater for a very long time because you take the oxygen you need with you underwater. Okay, coming back to our chart here, we have food. This is also what animals need to live, right? So here we have a picture of a squirrel. Looks like could be the friend of the other squirrel we saw in his shelter, right? This squirrel, wow, he's really eating that nut. That's his food. Of course, squirrels get nuts from trees, usually trees and other plants, but squirrels will get all sorts of different kinds of nuts. They will store them in their home, or, of course, they have to eat them also every day as well. Wow, this little guy is really energetic, isn't he? He really ate that nut very quickly. It seems to be very hungry. Okay, well, let's move on. The other thing, of course, all animals need water. Imagine, can you go throughout the day without drinking any water? You feel very thirsty, don't you? It's important to drink a lot of water every day. Just like these zebras. Let's take a look. These are zebras in the wild, and of course, they are drinking water from a puddle or a large puddle here. I wouldn't really call it a lake, but as you can see, many zebras have to come down to these puddles every day to get water to drink. However, it's a little dangerous because sometimes lions and other animals that eat zebras will stay here waiting for the zebras to come down because animals need to eat, right? They need food, as we just saw, but animals also need water. So it's very interesting in Africa. This is kind of an interesting relationship, right? Animals that come to water have to watch out for other animals that want to eat them as food. Okay, so water and food. Okay, let's go over the exercise now. Our job here is to go over each word. We have the definition and we have the words up here. We have to match the definition to the proper word. Let's start with number 1. A place where birds live. Remember, we talked about that. It's a special kind of shelter. Is it hatch, breathe, oxygen, store, nest, or shelter? Don't choose shelter because birds have a special kind of shelter. Do you remember what it was? That's right, it's nest. Birds have a special kind of shelter they call a nest. It's up in a tree, and they build their nest. Okay? So, number 2, a place where an animal can be safe. A place where an animal can be safe. I'll give you another hint. A nest is a type of this thing. What is it? It's a shelter, okay? It's where an animal can be safe. It's a shelter. It's an animal's house where they can be safe from the weather, from other animals. They have safety in their shelter. Number 3, to keep something for future use, okay? So if you get some food, you can eat it now, or you can put it away and save it for later. To keep something for future use, that means to store. Okay, to store something. And you noticed I used a different word there. I said to save. So we can use keep. We can also use save. To save something for future use. To keep something for future use. Also, to store something for future use. So all these verbs have the similar meaning. To keep, to save, to store. Don't use it now. Keep it. You might need it later. That's very important to do. Think about that, especially for human beings. What do we store for future use? Very common thing we save for future use is money, right? Don't spend all your money now. Save some. Store some for future use. Okay, let's move on. Number 4, a gas that is necessary for animals to live. So remember, gas, it's in the air around us, and we need it to breathe. What gas is that from our words? Of course, if you picked oxygen, that's correct. Gas is an oxygen that we need to use. It's necessary for animals to live. If we go underwater, we need to take our oxygen with us in a tank, right? As we saw on the video. Number 5 is to come out of an egg. So it's a verb to come out of an egg. When some animals will come out of an egg when they're very young, when they're just babies. What is that process called? That, of course, is called to hatch. To hatch. They come out of an egg. Number 6, to take in oxygen. To take it in, right? That, of course, is to breathe. So, breathe with me, right? Breathe deeply, right? Breathe in, breathe out, okay? We all need to breathe in order to survive. We need oxygen in the air around us. Okay, so that wraps up these words here. Let's take a look at our chart here. We have an interesting chart here. It's a little bit of a different subject. We're talking about what animals need to grow. Animals and plants are the natural world, right? And animals use plants in order to grow. How do animals use plants? But how do animals use plants? There are many ways. We can see 4 major ways in this chart. The first way, we can see animals live in plants. It doesn't mean inside the plant, it means surrounded by plants. For example, you can see these chimpanzees, right? They are living in plants, they're living around plants. Let's take a look at the video here. Wow, look at these guys. Whoa, he looks like a very tough guy, right? He's saying, hey, I've got something for you, right? Okay, or I don't know what he's doing. But you can see they are living in plants. You can see this little hole here and another one here. They probably go inside here. They use these plants for protection because other animals that might attack the chimpanzees, can't see the chimps inside the plants. So some animals will live inside plants. It doesn't mean inside the plant, it means surrounded by plants. Okay? In another way, animals use plants to make homes. Before, we saw how birds make nests. That's their shelter. Here is a good example of a nest. Well, when birds don't just find nests, they make nests. They take branches. They take branches. Branches are parts of trees, of course. You can also say they take twigs. Twigs. Twigs are very small pieces of branches, and that's what birds will pick up. And they will get a lot of twigs, they'll put them together and shape them like a bowl, and that's their nest. And you can see there are eggs inside the nest. Let's take a look at the video here. Oh, look at that. This little baby bird, these baby birds have hatched from those eggs, and now they're in the nest. Mama bird comes along, and she's watching over her babies. And sometimes she'll bring them food. See, little baby bird's like, I'm hungry, give me food, right? So, Mama just ate that piece of food. Okay, but Mama will protect her babies. She will bring them food, and you can see that they're very hungry. Their mouths are open, and they're waiting for food. Okay, let's move on. So animals also hide in plants. We talked a little bit about that with the chimpanzees. The chimpanzees will go into the forest and hide. But we can also see another example, and this is a good example of a deer, right? A deer is laying down. We have tall grass. There's a little baby deer over here. Let's take a look. So as we can see, we can see the mama deer very quickly, but we didn't see the baby deer very quickly. We only saw the back part, but all of a sudden the head pops up, right? So these deer can use the grass to hide in. When they lay down, other animals can't see them. Mama deer, though, she's looking up around because she wants to make sure nothing's coming, right? She wants to make sure her baby is safe. So she's keeping an eye out. But baby deer can lie down in the grass. Nobody can see it. So animals can hide in plants. Finally, our last picture here, the very common way that many animals use plants is to eat plants, right? Here we have a video. Let's take a look at a video. Of course, birds will eat plants too. Look at this bird. He's got a nut in his beak, and it's kind of hard. He's trying to chew it. He's got a very strong beak, so he can crush that seed and he can eat it. Of course, many other animals will eat plants too. The deer that we just saw, they'll eat that grass. Deer eat trees, right? Cows, if you think of cows, they'll move along and eat the grass in the field. So many animals need plants for food. Okay, let's move on here. Now here we have an exercise. Choose the things that animals are getting in the pictures. What are these animals getting in the pictures? In the first picture here, you see the bird? It's a bird with a very fancy yellow chest. What is this bird getting? You can see that he's holding on to something. This is a very interesting looking shelter. This is a very interesting looking nest. And of course, I just said shelter. This bird is getting shelter in this picture because this bird made a very interesting looking nest here, and it's getting shelter. Okay, let's move on. What is the animal in this picture? Can you see it? You see this tail right here? What is that a tail of? That is a tail of a whale, right? And what is the whale doing? Whales are not fish, okay? Whales need to come up to the surface of the water because they can't breathe underwater. They have to come up to the surface to where the air is, and then they breathe, and it looks like another whale is here, and it's breathing out, right? So what are these whales getting? Of course, they are getting oxygen. They have to come up to the surface of the water, then they can breathe, and they're getting oxygen. Okay, finally, we have a cute panda bear here, right? This panda bear is using plants. What is the panda bear using the plants for? Shelter or food in this picture? Obviously, he's eating the plant, so he's using the plant for food. Okay, so just to wrap up, the bird's getting shelter from the plant, the whales are getting oxygen, and the panda bear is getting food. Okay, so these are things that animals need to grow and to live. Okay, let's go over our true-false questions. Circle T for true, F for false. Number 1, a nest helps to protect young birds. So remember, we were talking about the birds and their nest, right? And we've said that a nest is a type of what? A nest is a type of shelter. What did we say about shelters? A shelter keeps an animal safe. So a nest helps to protect young birds. To protect means to keep safe. And birds use nests, don't they? So this sentence is true. It's true. A nest helps to protect young birds. A shelter keeps animals safe. A nest is a type of shelter. Okay, good. So number 2, to store means to come out of an egg. So when an animal comes out of an egg, that means to store, right? No, it doesn't, right? To store means to save something for future use. To come out of an egg, what is that? That is to hatch. So we would have to change this to hatch, right? Do you remember we talked about that word? To hatch means to come out of an egg. So obviously this sentence is false, right? Okay, so we would have to change that. Number 3, oxygen has many different colors. We talked about oxygen before, right? I said it's in the air around us. Can we see it? No, we can't see it. It's invisible. We cannot see it. So therefore, it doesn't have any color. There's no color to oxygen. So this is false, right? It doesn't have many different colors. Okay, well, let's take a break here. We'll come back and do the reading. Okay, let's go over the reading now. In this reading passage, we can see the topic sentence is the first sentence right here. Animals need many things to live. That's our topic sentence. We know our subject is animals, and our idea is that they need many things to live. That's our idea. Our subject is animals. What's the idea about animals? They need many things to live. In this reading passage, we will see 4 things that animals need to live. First, the number 1. What's number 1? We can find that easily. First means number 1. Animals need oxygen. That's the first thing that animals need. They need oxygen to breathe. Remember, oxygen is the gas. How do we get it? The verb is to breathe. We see another sentence about oxygen, giving us more details about oxygen. What is oxygen like? It has no color, and oxygen is made by plants. Okay? So plants will produce oxygen, and animals will breathe that oxygen. So of course, plants are very important in another way to animals. Okay, let's move on. Second, the second thing animals need to live, we can see that right away. That's number 2. Animals need food to get energy. Why do we need food? We need food to get energy. So it's very interesting. We have a pattern here. And first, animals need oxygen to breathe. Second, animals need food to get energy, right? So that's a very good pattern we can see in this reading passage. Some animals eat plants. So what kind of food? Plants is one type of food. Some animals eat other animals, right? Remember I talked about the zebras at the watering hole? They have to be careful because lions will go to the watering hole to wait for their food to come to them. So some animals eat other animals. Also, there are animals that eat both plants and animals. Really? There are some animals that eat both plants and other animals? What animal would do that? You're looking at one, okay? You are one too. We eat both plants and animals. At our dinner table, right, we'll probably have vegetables, eat lots of vegetables, plants, and you'll probably have other animals like chicken, right? Chicken's very delicious, right? That's another animal, right? So there are animals that eat both. Some animals only eat plants, some animals only eat other animals, meat, and some animals, like us, eat both. Okay. Third, what's the third thing that animals need? Animals need to drink water. We all need to drink water to stay alive. Drink water to stay alive. Again, it's following the pattern. We need this thing in order to do that thing. Oxygen to breathe, food to get energy, water to stay alive. Last. Last is also four, right? Third, last, that would be fourth, right? But because it's the last one, majimak, right? We can say it's the last one. Last, animals need shelters. Shelters, why? To protect them. Shelters to protect them. Shelters help to protect animals from danger and can keep them safe. Okay? So those are the four things we were talking about that animals need in order to live and to grow. For example, birds live in nests. This is a type of shelter. They store their eggs in the nests and the eggs hatch in the nests. So birds, of course, will make a nest. They will lay their eggs. They will keep their eggs safe in their shelter, which is a nest. Later on, those eggs will hatch into baby birds. If animals do not have oxygen, food, water, and shelter, those are our four things. 1, 2, 3, 4, they could become extinct, right? So that's very true. These are the things, the four things that animals need. We need oxygen. If we don't have oxygen, we will die. If we don't have food, we will die. If we don't have water, we will die. If we don't have shelter, we won't be safe and we could die, right? So, if we don't have these things, they could become extinct. All the animals could die. Let's take a look at a picture here. This is a picture of some baby birds, right? Mama bird is giving them food. They have shelter. Mama bird's giving them food. They have air because they're breathing the air around them. Okay? So they have all the things they need to grow and that they need to survive. So these birds will not go extinct as long as they have those things that they need. Now let's take a look at the main idea and details. As we saw in the topic sentence, this reading passage was about what animals need. What animals need to live. So we have our words down here, shelter, oxygen, and water. Those are three of the things that animals need. How do we put them into our chart? Number 4 is food. A, one of these things. This is made by plants and has no color. So two important things. 1, made by plants, and 2, it has no color. These two things define what we're looking for, right? We talked about in the air, we can't see it, it has no color. We also mentioned before that it's made by plants. What is it? Of course, if you chose oxygen, that's correct. It's a gas. It's made by plants and has no color. Food is already done for us. Food, animals need this to get energy. What do animals use with food? They use it to get energy. Over here, B, we don't know what that is. We need to look at the definition. Animals get it by drinking. So when we're drinking, what do we usually get? Of course, we get water. Water, animals need water in order to live. Finally, this is a place where animals can be safe. They can be safe in this place. What is it? Of course, if you chose shelter, that would be correct. Animals need shelter to protect them from other animals and also from the weather. So, this is a place where they can be safe. Okay, let's move on. Let's answer the reading comprehension questions. Correct answer. Number 1, where does a bird live? Does a bird live in hatch? Does a bird live in a nest? Or does a bird live in a store, right? Actually, 2 of these words are verbs, right? This is a verb. This is a verb. This is a noun, right? This one is a verb and a verb. So if you think about it, you could just answer it on the grammatical terms by itself. Where does a bird live? We're looking for a noun. A place is a noun. So of course, our only possible answer would be B. Of course, a nest is a type of shelter. Hatch means to come out of an egg. Store means to keep something for future use. So obviously, when we talk about where does a bird live, a place, well, a place is a nest. It's a noun, right? Okay. Number 2, how can a shelter help an animal? We've talked about this a lot, haven't we? You should know the answer. Let's go over the possible choices. Keep it safe. Yeah, we've talked about this a lot. So keep it safe is the correct answer. Let's go over B and C just for practice. B, to give it food. A shelter gives an animal food? No, that's not true. The animal has to go out and get food. Now, the animal can store food in the shelter, right? But he doesn't go there first to get the food. He has to go somewhere else, bring the food back to the shelter, and store it there. C, how can a shelter help an animal? To make it extinct? No, right? We talked about an animal needs food, water, air, and shelter so that it won't go extinct, so that it does not become extinct. So, of course, C would not be a correct answer. A is the correct answer. Shelters keep animals safe. Okay, question number 3. Some animals only eat other animals. So we're talking about what animals eat. Remember, we were talking about those 3 types of animals, right? Some animals eat other animals, some animals eat plants, and some animals eat both animals and plants. In this case, some animals only eat other animals, and A, some animals only eat oxygen. Eat oxygen? No, we don't eat oxygen, right? We breathe oxygen. That would be very strange, right? If we could eat oxygen, right? That's crazy. Okay, so that's not the correct answer. That's kind of silly. B, some animals only eat plants, right? We talked about that, right? Some animals eat other animals. Some animals only eat plants. That's true. So B is our correct answer. Let's take a look at C. Some animals only drink water. That's not true because of only. Not only drink water. Remember, food and water are different. Yes, we do need water, but we also need food. We can't survive if we only drink water. We also need food to get energy. Water we drink to help our bodies grow, to help the process of our body, to help blood move through our body. We need water, but we also need food. So we can't survive if we only drink water. So C, of course, would not be correct either. We saw that B is our answer. Number 4. What do birds need to stop them from becoming extinct? Now remember, it's not just birds, right? It's all animals. So don't be confused, right? It's all animals. What do all animals need to stop them from becoming extinct? A, they need eggs, young, and nests. Is that true? Well, birds, do they need eggs? They make eggs, right? Then the eggs hatch into young. And just nests? There's nothing else here. Remember, animals need 4 things in order to survive. We only see one thing. Nests could be shelter. Shelter is one of those 4 things. So A is not the correct answer. What about B? They need other animals to eat them. Do you see birds eating other animals? Sometimes you do. Some big birds like vultures and eagles, they do eat other animals. But we also saw a video of a bird eating a seed. So it's interesting. Some birds eat only plants. Some birds eat only other animals, right? That's interesting. But so this isn't true for all birds, right? Or all animals, right? So that's not true. They also need many other things. Let's look at C. C, now that's an interesting one. They need water, they need oxygen, they need food, and they need shelter. There's our 4 things, right? Those are the 4 things that birds and all animals need. Water, oxygen, food, and shelter. That's what we're talking about in this lesson. The 4 things that all animals need in order to live. So C, of course, is our right answer, our correct answer. Okay, let's move on to the slide. Our last slide is kind of like a puzzle. We're looking at our chart. We saw this chart before. Remember, we just talked about the 4 things that animals need to live. Let's take a look at these different pictures and see what they are. First of all, we see a cute little animal in a tree. What is this animal? What does this animal represent? Or where is this animal? What place is this animal? Remember, he looks safe. inside this area. He looks very safe. He, of course, is in a shelter. So that's one thing, one of the 4 things that animals need in order to live. Over here, it's underwater, right? We can see these bubbles coming up. This is a gas, right? What is in that gas that we need to breathe? What is that element? That element, of course, is oxygen. So we need oxygen also to live. Down here, these zebras are lined up. They're drinking. What are they drinking? They're drinking water. That's another thing that all animals need to live. Finally, over here, we have our friend the squirrel. He has, what are these things? They look like nuts. Almost, they're not berries. They're colorful like berries, but they're not. They are nuts. And he's got his hand on one of them, right? So he's very happy. He's got a lot of what? What does he have a lot of there? He's got a lot of food. So this squirrel is very happy. He has a lot of food. He can eat some, and he can store some for later use, probably in his shelter. So we have many things here, 4 things that animals need in order to live. Okay, well that wraps up our lesson for today. Hope you've learned a lot. It's very interesting talking about animals. And remember, we're animals too. We need all of these things as well. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next time. Take care.